tired of sad beige decor? I was too, so I started making whimsical fantasy decorations instead. In this video, I'm making some new cottagecore inspired decorations from 1 kilogram of air dry clay, and I'm also trying a brand new air dry clay technique I've never used before, and honestly, I have no idea how it's going to turn out. Hey, I'm Shuki, the artist behind Novyrajewelry and clay art, and today we will be making some new air dry clay magnets and trinkets, so grab a snack, get cozy and enjoy the video. First I decided to make a wall decoration, and it's going to be a very rustic, colorful and happy little kitchen with a cute cat figurine. I had no idea how it was going to turn out, and I faced a lot of challenges while making the frame and furniture, but I think it turned out so adorable in the end, so stay tuned to see it. I will be trying to make a few more different ones in the future videos, perhaps some other rooms, and I hope I can make them even better and cuter. I tried a new technique when making this little room, especially the frame. Normally you would have to wait until the clay dries naturally before attaching the two pieces together, but I really didn't have several extra days to make this video, so I decided to try it in the oven. I had never tried this before, so I was a little nervous. I set the oven to 95 degrees Celsius and left it in there for about an hour. I didn't really notice any major cracking. To be honest, when I let the air dry clay dry naturally, it still cracks quite often. Some people say it's due to excess water, but even when I used little to no water, there was barely any difference. So I read up on it, and there were quite a few people who said that air dry clay will crack no matter what you do. I am not sure about how true that is, but personally that's my experience as well. Just a little disclaimer, air dry clay manufacturers don't recommend you oven drying their clay. Also, this method worked for me, but every brand of air dry clay is so different, so make sure to check and read the instructions for a specific clay before trying it yourself. By the way, I use a few air dry clay in this video. Also, whenever you bake any type of clay, make sure to open your windows so you can avoid as many fumes as possible. And if you can, please avoid baking your polymer clay or any other clay in the same oven you use to cook your food. While it's baking, I decided that the second item will be added to my shop if this video gets 20 likes. It's going to be an adorable keychain or back charm made of costume cat head, a fish, a little bow and a glass bead. The good part about this is that the costume cat head you can make look like your own cat if you have one. I designed and 3D printed this new fluffy cat head cutter, and I think it's kind of gives Studio Ghibli vibes. Which Studio Ghibli movie is your favorite? My two favorites so far are Kiki's Delivery Service and Howl's Moving Castle. Kiki's Delivery Service is just so adorable and cozy, while Howl's Moving Castle has such a wholesome and slightly sad story. And I have to say, Howl's Moving Castle's main theme, the merry-go-round of life, is just amazing, and if you haven't heard it, you should go and listen to it. I still haven't seen Spirited Away or My Neighbor Totoro, but I know so many people absolutely love them. I keep seeing artists make the cutest products inspired by Studio Ghibli movies, and I would love to make some too. As a small artist, I know I would probably be fine, but I'd rather avoid any potential copyright issues. That's also why I haven't made anything inspired by any Sanrio characters or Miffy. I just love them so much and I'm sad I can't turn them into product. Also, which one is your favorite Sanrio character? Mine are Cinnamon Roll and Pom Pom Pudding. I just can't decide which one I love more. I also really like when people who don't know anything about Sanrio think Cinnamon Roll is a bunny, which is kind of understandable, and they utter disbelief when you tell them it's a dog. Now imagine when they learn that Hello Kitty is not a cat but actually just a British schoolgirl. Also, I have to admit, I think I might have a slight plushie addiction, because I just genuinely can't control myself when I see anything adorable. While making the keychains, I decided to insert and cut the eye pins while the clay was still wet, which wasn't a great idea, so I broke some of the little bows and deformed some of the cat heads, and this resulted in me having to redo them off camera sadly. In the meantime, I could take out the little room's frame from the oven. I was honestly expecting a lot more cracking, so I was pleasantly surprised by how well it turned out. The main issue I noticed when baking the air dry clay was that it curled up quite a bit, so I had to keep pushing it back down. Sadly, that caused a few cracks. But the good thing about air dry clay is that it's pretty easy to fix. You can sand it down, wet the cracked area and add a little bit of fresh clay and smooth it out again. Once it's painted, the repair is usually barely visible. Also, in my opinion, one of the charms of air dry clay is the rustic look and feel it has. I actually think that the little imperfections can add a lot of character to a piece. If you have any tips or tricks on preventing air dry clay from cracking or curling up while drying, even while drying naturally, please let me know. I'm always looking to learn new techniques and improve my clay making process. And if I can make things easier and a little bit quicker, that would be amazing too, as it helps me keep my products more affordable for everyone. While waiting for the frame to dry again where I worked it together, I decided to make 2 new picture holder prototypes as well, a little lighthouse which fits the summer vibe perfectly, and a little mushroom. I did accidentally mess up my little mushroom, as you will see, so it doesn't always want to stand up straight, but at least it looks extremely cute. After I was done making the lighthouse, I did realize I made it slightly too big. I wanted it to be a bit smaller and cuter, so right now it's actually a bit heavy, but I will be remaking it later in the future, so stay tuned to see that. Besides the summer vibes, I decided to make a lighthouse because I want to make a few different building picture holders, and I thought a lighthouse would be the best first addition. I might make a tiny farmhouse, a cathedral or castle next. I really want to make a tiny castle, but I'm worried it would take way too long to make and people wouldn't be interested in it. Perhaps I will just try making one for myself. Additionally, I'm planning on making myself a book stopper, as I have an open shelf with books and the one at the end just keeps falling off and knocking down everything in its way. And honestly, I'm worried that the book will get ruined or it will break something important. My only problem is that I can't decide on what style I should make it in. I really want to keep to the fantasy style. Perhaps it could have a dragon head or dragon wing, but sculpting a big dragon head from clay requires a lot of patience and skill, which I personally don't have yet, but I'm always up for a challenge. Now I started making the little mushroom. As I said, I accidentally messed up the little mushroom. I'm still happy with how cute it will look when it's finished, but I will have to make some new prototypes of it in the future, perhaps on different types of mushrooms as well, and maybe just clay magnets, like a 3D mushroom on your fridge. That would look very adorable. I actually really enjoy making mushrooms because they can be so many different sizes and shapes, and they just look so cottagecore and very witchy. I was also thinking of making little figurines that are inspired by different mushrooms. They would have a little mushroom hat. Oh, I can already imagine them being so adorable. I would like you to tell me if you prefer like little figurines or statues or keychains or back charms, because I know a lot of people don't like keychains. I personally don't wear a lot of them either, as they get in the way. And there's only so many back charms I can put on a singular bag. I am also aware that people wouldn't like a little statue just existing on desk and collecting dust. I do really like them and they are so adorable and make me happy, but I can understand if some people don't like it. I also wanted to try making a new magnet with a tiny vase design so you could put your favorite dried flowers in it. Ones that don't need any water, of course, but I came to the conclusion that it should probably be a bit bigger, so I definitely try that next time. If it's larger, I can add more details and make it even cuter. I actually think this idea would work perfectly with polymer clay. I love using polymer clay, it's just so much fun, but sadly my favorite clay is Scopi Primo and it's pretty pricey where I live, so I don't really have much of it left. I think I will make a polymer clay video soon though. I've also seen quite a few artists make their own porcelain clay at home. It always looks so smooth and seems to have such a lovely texture, so I really want to try making some myself. The only problem is that I can't decide which glue to use. Everyone always recommends white PVA glue, but whenever I look it up it seems pretty expensive. At this point it almost feels like more worth it to just buy the ready-made clay instead. What confuses me is that all the tutorials say homemade porcelain clay is super cheap to make, which feels a little contradictory. They also tend to use glue brands that are either unavailable in Europe or cost 3 times as much here. So please, if you have any glue recommendations for making porcelain clay at home, let me know in the comments. I would love to experiment with it and hopefully make some cool clay statues and keychains from it. Also, I'm almost at 100 subscribers. I'm so happy and I just wanted to quickly say thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed, liked and watched my videos. It genuinely means a lot more than I can say while I'm just sitting here making clay pieces. If you are not subscribed yet and you're enjoying the video, feel free to join. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the beginning of September, which feels a bit crazy to even say, but also really exciting. And if you like my clay trinkets and jewelry, you can find my shop linked in the description or in my bio. I also have a discount code for 15% off if you order any 2 items from my store. And there is also an email sign up where you can get a 10% off coupon with no minimum order attached. And I promise I will barely send any emails, just like once a month for new products or restocks, nothing spammy at all. Everything I make is in a very limited stock, so once something sells out, it might not come back exactly the same. That's why I always say if you see something you like, it's best to grab it while it's still there. My prices start around 10 to 11 euros for smaller pieces, and I also do a lot more detailed items and custom orders too. I always try to keep things affordable while still high quality since everything is handmade. And I offer worldwide shipping, which depends on the country, but it's always free in Hungary. And if you spend 200 euros in the EU or 300 euros international, you can get free shipping with codes on my website. Anyway, I've stopped talking about this now because I know it can get annoying, but thank you again for being here, and it really means so much, and it honestly keeps me motivated to keep creating. Anyway, let's get back to the video. For my wall decoration, I made the little cat figurine holding a cup of coffee while wearing a tiny bow. For the first furniture, I decided to make a little table. I used a roll of tape to make the perfect size circle as I haven't had a cutter, and attached it with a toothpick to the bottom half of the table. I did accidentally leave the toothpick ever so slightly bigger than needed and can be a bit visible, but sanding should fix that issue later. For the next furniture, I made a little kitchen counter with a sink and a tap. Later I will put some decorations on it so it won't be so boring. Then I sculpted a tiny fridge with a heart on it as a logo. Then I made probably my least favorite furniture to make, the oven. I am just not really happy with how it looks, but that's completely okay. We can always make it better next time. On the other hand, I'm happy with how the carpet turned out. I know most people don't really have carpets in their kitchen, but I thought it would be a lovely addition to my little room. I had a teeny tiny room left next to the fridge and I wanted to fill it up, so I decided to make a basket-like trash can. For extra decorations, I made some picture frames, a window, some cups and plates, and of course, plates should always have some food on them, so I made some pastries. I used these amazing croissant molds to make the most adorable little pastries. I know not everyone likes using molds, as some people think it's kind of cheating, but then they are often the same people who complain about the prices of handmade products, so honestly I try to not let those kind of opinions affect me too much. I will say though I'm someone who gets sad and emotional quite easily, so the negativity and toxicity on the internet can really get to me sometimes, but I've realized it's not very healthy for me, and I think reducing the amount of time we spend on social media is really important for everyone, and it should be a priority in our life. Most of my work and hobbies are connected to the internet, which makes it a bit difficult for me to get away from it, but I'm slowly trying to take steps towards a healthier mindset and a better balance. I'm actually planning to make a video about this soon, and also about how I use different forms of art to help with my anxiety and depression, so if that's something you would be interested in, stay tuned for that. Talking of new videos, I will be releasing some tutorials and more educational content in the near future, mostly focusing on clay. I'm nowhere near what you would call a professional, but over the past few years I've run into so many little problems and questions that I had to figure out myself. I would really like to start sharing the answers I couldn't find with you and my own personal experiences so you can learn from them. From the remaining clay, I just made some more magnets, and I used a sanding sponge to lightly sand them after they dried. I try not to overdo the sanding because I like to keep some of that rustic look. I've also tried using the Dremel before to sand my pieces, but even on the lowest setting, it just ends up making such a big dent in the clay that I can't really fix it. Maybe I'm just using it the wrong way. If you have any experience with it, please share it. I feel like I could save so much time if I could get it to work properly. I've accidentally dropped the little cat figurine while sanding and the arms broke off. Luckily I have PVA wood glue, which in my experience works quite well with air dry clay. It does need about a day to fully dry and reach its maximum strength, but it holds things in place pretty quickly after about maximum 5 minutes, which is really helpful while working. I actually won't be varnishing or glazing the trinkets you see in today's video, because choosing and testing different varnishes for air dry clay will be the topic of my very first experimental educational video. And my main focus with that is to explore alternatives to UV resin, since I know a lot of people are curious about that too, and I really don't like using UV resin. UV resin does look amazing, but what most people don't really talk about is that it can take almost as long to apply and finish properly as it does to actually sculpt and decorate the pieces itself. It also can be quite harsh and toxic and may cause skin, eye and respiratory irritation. Of course, I always use proper safety gear when handling it, but I still see a lot of people, even big creators, using it without protection. I also work with it only outside since I don't have a proper air purifier, And even then, I make sure to leave pieces in a well-ventilated area for at least 15 minutes after curing and air out the space so the fumes can clear out. But if ventilation isn't good enough, the fumes can linger for hours or even days. You also have to be careful not to leave food or drinks near it because resin particles can settle on the surface and it won't be safe to consume anything that was exposed to them. I know some people might see this as overthinking it or being overly cautious, but for me there is no reason to risk my health just for a craft supply that could be substituted with something else. Besides, wearing all the safety gear is just so uncomfortable, and working outside with UV resin in 40-degree heat can be pretty difficult as well. Not to mention that even the tiniest amount of UV light can make UV resin start curing immediately, turning it into this gooey mess, and the bubbles. Even after using a lighter, they don't always disappear, and if it started slightly curing, then you will never get them out. I still have about 1.5 bottles of UV resin left, but honestly I don't think I'll be using it again after those are finished. What really put me off UV resin that I saw that there are people who are actually allergic to it even after curing, and it can still cause skin irritation, and I just can't good-heartedly sell something like that. Right now I only have a few jewelry pieces that are made out of clay and covered in UV resin in my shop, but even for those I offered the option to be coated in polyurethane, or the front in UV resin if you prefer the look, and the back with polyurethane, so it won't cause any skin irritations most likely. But I'm hoping to find a very safe substitute as soon as possible. I'm so sorry for the little rant, but in my opinion not enough people talk about the downsides of UV resin. I do love the durable glassy finish it gives, but I really hope I can find something similar without all the hassle. So if you want to see me try 5 to 6 different finishes on air dry clay and rate them, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for next week. Let me tell you a secret. My main goal with this batch of clay magnets, besides having a video to upload of course, was to make a little packages for marketing purposes. I will be putting a magnet and the name card together and leaving them in like public areas in a little baggie where they are easy to find. I will also be visiting a few countries this year and I plan to do the same there as well. Don't worry though, I won't be littering or leaving anything in nature. I'm only placing them in appropriate public spaces. I'm just hoping to make my work a little more visible and perhaps get a few new subscribers or sales along the way. Who knows, you might be lucky enough to find one yourself. But due to this, I need to finish all of them by the end of next week when I will be leaving to Sicily. I am also planning to start uploading 2 videos a week starting in July, but I won't be home during the first week, so I will have to record, edit and prepare 3 long-form videos in about 4 to 5 days next week, which is definitely going to be a challenge. I really hope I can manage it, but if not, I'll just upload an extra video later. I really don't want to start hating content creation, so I'm trying to keep a healthy and balanced relationship with it. I colored my magnets with acrylic paint and acrylic markers as per usual. Sadly, some of my acrylic markers are starting to run out of ink. What is your favorite brand of acrylic markers to use? I really enjoy decorating all the cats and birds as they always look so colorful and happy, and with the fishes I can just do whatever I like and they usually turn out amazing. I decided to make 2 new types of birds. The yellow one is a little yellow canary, while the pink one, that looks kinda like my pigeons I made previously, is actually a pink robin. With the other animals, I have to be just a little more careful not to make them look angry, sad or scary. I actually made the mistake of making some of my new bear magnets look a bit too angry before, especially the black ones, so I had to redo the face entirely. Out of all the bears I made, my favorite is definitely the panda. It's so derpy. I'm really happy I could make some new cat magnets as well. My favorite ones are the standing cats, and I love adding the little bow around their neck. I also made a new goose. Last time I had a stamping cutter, but it didn't work very well with air dry clay, so I redesigned it into both a stamp and a separate cutter. It wasn't perfect, but it worked so much better. I'm thinking of adding a little 3D bow onto it in the future as well. Personally, I think it would look so much better than the flat one. And I enjoy making tiny clay projects more from polymer clay than from air dry clay. It just feels more satisfying and easier to work with. Now, probably for the most stressful part of this entire project, I was so worried of messing up the cat figurine because I didn't have a backup version of it and I had already used up the entirety of the 1 kilogram of air dry clay, and I really didn't want to open an extra one just to make a new cat and let the other parts dry out, but luckily it turned out fine. And now for my favorite part, assembling the mini room. I just love seeing it coming all together and turning into something incredibly cute. I used PVA glue to attach everything, so I had to wait a few hours with it until I could lift it up securely. Now that I won't be using UV resin on this batch, I am not entirely sure what glue will work best for attaching magnets to air dry clay without dissolving the clay itself, so I will probably experiment with a few different options. I also originally planned this little room as a wall decoration, but I've had to come to the realization that it's a bit too heavy to be held up by just a single screw or nail, so it would probably end up as a shelf decoration instead. I was actually planning to give this to my dad as a Father's Day gift, but I couldn't really finish it in time, and to be honest with you, it's not really his style anyway. What do you think? How did it turn out? I will probably coat it in polyurethane next week to give it a bit of a shine. I might turn that into a short, so stay tuned for that. What was your favorite magnet or decoration I made in today's video? I know my for sure was the wall decoration, the little kitchen I made, but besides that I really love the fishes and the cats. They are always a joy to make. Let me know your preferences in the comments below. If you'd like to see me try different varnishes on air dry clay and more future experiments like this, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. And don't forget to like the video and check out my website if you want to support my work and help me reach even more people. It really means so much to me. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have a lovely day and stay safe. Bye!